Okay, welcome back, gang. This is the third screencast of relatively shorty on the cerebral hemispheres. So we are still talking about the structure of the brain, but now just getting a little bit more depth with how the brain works with each other. All right, let's get the picture up there. All right, so the cerebral hemispheres are responsible, as we know, for higher order function because we've gone over the functions of the cerebrum. So you have four lobes: the frontal, parietal, temporal, and occipital on either side of the brain. So the function, the higher order functions again, memory, speech, emotions, cognitive thought, problem solving, and all. But of course, the little story here is that not all tasks are completely represented by both hemispheres. Some activities are localized onto one side, and so there'll be a special example of that coming up. Plus another example to make you. All right. Now, information is passed between the two hemispheres by a special section of nerve cells called that form what is called the corpus callosum. So I wanted to go back to the brain picture right there so we can label the corpus callosum, and here it is. So we're going to go back and you can add that to your brain picture there. Make that smaller, but the corpus callosum there, you have a corpus callosum on both sides of your brain. And the corpus callosum, again, is the section there of nerve tissue. We'll go back, excuse me, go back up there, the section of nerve tissue that facilitates the communication between both hemispheres, which I believe it's referred to as interhemispheric communication. So what is communicated, as you can see here? Get all of these notes up here. All right. So this is called the lateralization of brain function. All right. So the fact that lateralization of brain function refers to the first two blurred marks on both of the parts of the T table. The fact that sensory and motor stimuli from the right is controlled by the left, and vice versa on the right. But you can see some other things that are mainly controlled by, more of by the hemisphere. So you ever hear the phrase, are you left-brained or are you right-brained? Well, maybe it can be both brain. But if you're a left brain is thought of as really the math side of the brain. So I think I'm right brain. I think at math. Anyhow, creativity on the right side. I say creativity, spatial ability, context, perception. We all have both, but some people, gravitate from one to the other. So you can be left brained or right brained. So what is control? However, you see up on top, again, stimuli from the body. So the left cerebral hemisphere receives sensory inputs from sensory receptors in the right side of the body, and the right visual field in both eyes. Okay, so we'll talk about visual field coming up in the next section here. All right, and vice versa. So we're talking about tactile sensation from the left side processed by the right side. Objects. Okay, so we'll talk about vision specifically coming up. All right, so here's some of the things that, if we were taking an IB test, they would want you to know specifics. All right, the first two things we spoke about, again, which talk about sensory inputs. So sensory and motor inputs from the left side of your body to the right side of your brain and the other way around. This is the lobe, again, the lobe that controls the parietal and the frontal lobe here. The visual cortex from the rod and cone cells. Notice I don't have a lobe there because it's actually in your eye, as we'll take a look at a little more in depth, the right side of your left eye and the right side of your right eye. So it's a little stranger here. So it's, as it said, to give you an example, objects on the left visual field in both eyes are processed on the right side of your visual cortex. So we'll see that with a map coming up in just a second, actually to the next screencast. All right, here's one special example here. Broca's area. Broca's area is part of the left cerebral hemisphere only, and it controls speech. So damage to that area, let's say by brain damage or a stroke, could result in a person knowing what they want to say, but they could only make sounds and really be unable to make meaningful words and sentences from it. All right. Another special portion of the brain found in, is called the nucleus accumbens. I'm going to go out of here just a second, go back to a label, the nucleus accumbens. All right. And this is the pleasure and reward center of both sides of the brain, both sides of the brain, and it releases the neurotransmitters dopamine, again in response to stimuli like exercise, laughter, um, drugs also, bad drugs, cocaine and heroin, pleasure center. So I suppose sex as well. All right, and serotonin, frontal lobe of your brain. So you need to know the function of the visual cortex. We'll have more of that, Broca's area, and the nucleus accumbens. Now, if we go over to the picture there, all right, you see where the nucleus accumbens here, and we're going to go back to the diagram in just a second on the smartboard and label that as well. All right, Broca's area, unless we have a left side of the brain, can't be looked at. So you'll notice the left side of the brain. We don't have that on our label diagram, but there it is, part of the frontal lobe on the left side of your brain. So it is labelable if, let's say, on an IB test or a picture I choose from an IB test, you get the left portion of your brain. Again, the label picture that I'm going to go back to now is from the right portion of your brain, okay? And then I have neatly circled right there in the right portion of your brain. I'll get a little line there to put in the nucleus accumbens, and we'll spell that out there. Make it a little smaller. Make sure I spell accumbens correct because I'm not, yeah, I got that right. All right, the nucleus accumbens right there. And so we have that for the brain. Okay, so cerebral hemisphere is over. We'll come back